I started playing with my brother Johnny when I was 4 years old, and we played ukuleles and sang Everly Brothers songs like "Wake Up, Little Susie, I Want to Go Home," you know, cute little kids playing ukuleles. Johnny graduated to guitar, and he just had a natural gift for that. When it became really evident he was going to be the guitar player, I just said, well, I'll play everything else. So my dad played guitar and banjo and played alto sax in a swing band in his youth. My mom played beautiful classical piano. My grandfather played fiddle, violin. My great-grandfather played trumpet. And I thought everybody played music because it was a sort of a household tradition and activity in our household. And then I realized, it's not everybody does this. It's like a special thing. We started forming bands. Our first band was Johnny and the Jammers when I was about 11, and we'd play like after the football dances. It was interesting because there was that French Cajun, we just call it swamp music, but the Zydeco, the French Cajun style of New Orleans, Dr. John and Alan Toussaint and all of that stuff. It's close to Mexico, so there were hot Latin rhythm players. And then real cowboys singing real country music, real blues guys, and North Texas, which is a great jazz school for improvisation, great music school. So you had all of these educated, more advanced players as well. And then in my teens is when I really got interested in jazz. I found, up at that time I'd played bass for a while, I played drums in the band for a while, and then electric pianos came out, organs. And what was so great about it was my brother Johnny, he loved the spotlight, and he read all the magazines and watched Bandstand, and he was Johnny Cool Daddy Winter with the shades and the guitar and the girls and all that. And I was the weird kid that played all the instruments, and I just loved figuring out the arrangements to the songs and showing everybody what to play. And I just always loved music, just the beauty of harmony and rhythm, and it's stayed with me throughout my whole life. I never had any particular desire, or never thought about being famous. When it happened with Johnny, he invited me up to New York, and I met his manager, who introduced me to Clive Davis, who was the president of CBS at that time. It took a while. Johnny passed away in 2014, and I didn't really know what it was going to be like, but everybody was so kind and supportive, and all the people on the tour, we would join us at the end of the show and do a tribute, to Johnny. So it was a great source of strength and comfort to play a lot of that music. I had lots of requests to do a tribute album, but I just never felt it was right. A lot of times it seemed like record companies interested in a hook, in exploiting his memory and his name, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. I was introduced to Bruce Quarto, who Denny mentioned in the set. And we're on the same label now, and Bruce just has a deep love for classic rock music, and I think we're all tempted to feel that the time in which we came up was somehow special, but I really do believe that there were two golden eras in music, the 40s and 50s for big band, jazz, and swing, and the 60s and 70s for rock and roll, and they really, I think, are unparalleled. I called up some of my guitar player friends, Joe Walsh, of course, the James Gang and Eagles, Joe Bonamassa. I played a lot of shows with Billy Gibbons, a fellow Texan, with ZZ Top. Kenny Wayne Shepherd I know really well, and I've been recording at home, doing piano tracks, just work out a roadmap of the songs, and we're in a couple of weeks we'll be going in the studio to actually start. On Ringo's 70th birthday, we were at the Radio City Music Hall in New York, And it was a big surprise to Ringo. He didn't know it, but Paul came on at the end, and Joe Walsh was there, and da-da-da-da-da-da. It was great. And of course, Denny has the Beatle connection as well. I love to play jazz, and I know that Denny started out, I never attempted to be a serious jazz player. I have done one jazz recording called Jazz and the Blues, and my first album, the entrance album, is jazz influence. Part of what I've tried to do throughout my whole musical career is to just broaden musical horizons. I've never been able to understand why music has to be one thing or the other. Record companies want you to either, okay, you're a rock guy or a blues guy or a country guy, and they like that because they can then target a very specific audience, and I think it has more to do with that, than anything else. And I just never wanted to get. I've always enjoyed playing all styles of music, and a lot of my favorite players are people like Sting, who has a jazz sensibility, or somebody like Bruce Hornsby, who is a fluid jazz player, but his music retains that simplicity and sincerity of country. After I started using the synthesizer, there was a keyboard called the Univox, because I wanted to be able to play a full-size, full-length keyboard, and that thing was like 75 pounds, and that was a struggle, to walk around on stage. But the way it happened is I was just walking through the music store, and I'm looking at these new synthesizers, and Robert Moog is generally credited with inventing the synthesizer, but the Moog was just like one big clunky unit. And the one that caught my eye was this ARP 2600, which had a remote keyboard. It had this big umbilical looking cable, and in the brain or the guts of the instrument was like this mad scientist looking contraption with little knobs and sliders and everything. And I just looked at it and I said, oh, yeah, it looks like it's not too big. You can just put a strap on this and play it like a guitar. The first night I walked on stage with it, it was just like one of those rock and roll moments. It was this crowd going crazy. We did a show with Billy Preston, and they had that show, they had a couple of shows where the action is, or Hullabaloo, one of those. And I saw Billy doing it 3 weeks later on TV. I said, I must be onto something good. I got that idea years before we recorded it. And this is when I was playing with my brother Johnny. And nobody knew Johnny had a brother, and he would play the first half of the show with his blues trio. And he's saying, I'm going to bring on my little brother Edgar. Oh! I thought, well, that dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It sounded like a good kind of walk-on, bluesy kind of thing. So we worked up a version of it, and I played Hammond B3 organ, and I played alto sax, and we had 2 sets of drums on stage, and I did a dual drum solo with his drummer, and we called it the double drum song because of the drums. And we played it and forgot about it for years. Then when I got the idea of putting the strap on the synthesizer, I was looking for a song, like a vehicle to feature the synthesizer. And I said, I bet that old double drum song would sound really cool with that, da-da-da-da. We still had no intention of recording this, and we just started calling it the instrumental. And the way it got the name was after we were in the studio, it got toward the end of the project. It kept getting longer and longer as I would create a new sound. I would then write another section, to accommodate that sound. So we just happened to have some versions of it lying around the studio. Back in those days, the only way to edit something was to physically cut the master tape. So it was lying all over the control room, draped over the backs of chairs. And the drummer, Chuck, mumbled the immortal words. Wow, man, it's like Frankenstein. As soon as I heard it,